Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of In the Corner. I'm Cash. Today, we have episode 111, 111, and we've got a pretty good weekend of fights coming up, which we're going to talk about. But we have to start with some huge news that dropped yesterday, which I honestly feel like people aren't talking about enough, and I'm not mad at it because it's news that may not come to fruition, and that is that the Ring Magazine didn't report, but more so announced that Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury are fighting in 2026. And you know how it works with these Ring Magazine things? Because they are now owned by Turkey Al Sheikh, a lot of the fights that they report on, their source is the Ring has learned, is what they say, which means they were told. Turkey just told the Ring because the Ring is also a promotional company. They're going to be the ones who are going to promote Fury Joshua. But they said that Riyadh season is planning a Fury and Joshua fight later in 2026. And they don't say it's in the works. They don't say it's been contractually finalized or anything like that. They just say that they will fight. And this is important because it confirms that Fury's on board. We've known AJ's on board. But they say they both are going to have fights earlier in the year on Riyadh season events as part of the Riyadh season calendar, and then later in the year they'll fight. So, I mean, the rumor is that AJ's fighting February 14th on Valentine's Day. It's not even a rumor; it's more so just true. After he fights Jake Paul, which we all know he's gonna blow him out of the water, and then Tyson Fury will fight. The rumor with him is that he's gonna fight in April on this Manchester card that Turkey has talked about. I have no idea who Fury fights. For some reason, I feel like AJ has a lot more options of who he can fight next. You can throw AJ in with any top 30 heavyweight, nobody will really care. But Tyson Fury, I feel like it's got to be someone that matters, and I really don't know who you throw in there with him. Besides Usyk 3, who he wants, but there's no interest in an Usyk trilogy. Especially not as a tune-up to AJ, because this has to be a tune-up. Maybe they have him go for Fabio Wardley, and then he beats Fabio Wardley, and he gets to become another world champion, and then there's a world title on the line for Fury Joshua, which he doesn't even need. But, for him to have a world title fight, that's a very big risk. That's not true. I mean, right now, I think a lot of people would say Fabio Wardley is a tougher fight than Anthony Joshua. So I don't imagine him doing that. I don't know who they fight first, but this is huge that, it's in place. It's going to happen likely in September, I think is what we're hearing. And that it will be hopefully in London at Wembley Stadium. It's the only place that really makes sense for it. You have to have it in the biggest stadium, in the best stadium in the UK. It cannot happen in Saudi Arabia. It has to be in England. And, yeah, dude, I'm just really happy this is finally happening. But it really does feel like it's just too late. I mean, I saw this yesterday and expected that the whole boxing, social media, everything was just going to explode. And it really didn't. Just because people kind of saw this coming, people were expecting, yeah, we've heard it before. So we'll see. I'm still not going to give my hopes up. It's exciting to know because we've never had Ring Magazine come out and say this before. Yeah, they're going to fight, So it's exciting to know that they are going to fight. At least that's the legit plan right now. Because we heard it was the plan for 2025 too and 2024, and that just didn't happen. So we'll see what happens, but very exciting times. Now let's talk about some of the boxing that we have coming up this weekend. And we'll start with Matchroom's card in LA, which is probably the biggest boxing card of the weekend. That is Diego Pacheco, Kevin Lele Sadjo, which I think is a tremendous fight. Both these guys are undefeated. Diego Pacheco has been slowly leveling up his opposition. But all the fights are guys he's going to beat him. I mean, when he fought Steven Nelson, I was like, oh, yeah, it's a good opponent, another undefeated guy. He'll beat him. Was good. And then Trevor McCumbee, who just came off a great performance against Caleb Plant. We knew, Pacheco would beat him. Now we've got Kevin Sadjo. Now I do believe that Pacheco is the favorite. Sadjo is 100% a top 15 super middleweight, maybe even top 10, given on the day. So this is a very, very good fight, I feel. I definitely think this is Pacheco's toughest test. And you throw in the fact that Sadjo is not only a big puncher, but is undefeated. And when you are undefeated, it kind of, makes you a little bit more. There's something that about having never lost before that makes you fight a different way. Where I always feel like someone's undefeated, that really makes it a tougher fight. Not only just because, no one's ever cracked their code, but also because they haven't lost. They've never had their first loss, and they don't want to have their first loss. Fighters really want to be undefeated, so they're going to do everything they can to not be undefeated. I mean, once they do have a loss, maybe they'll, it's whatever. I've lost before, and they'll kind of, not fight as hard. But you got two guys in here who really want it, who are waiting on a world title shot, especially in 168, which Canelo has dominated. And now Crawford is on top. But once Crawford and Canelo are gone, which I think will happen in the next year or two, all those world titles become vacant. And guys like Diego Pacheco and Kevin Sadjo can fight for them. Now, who do I think wins? I am going to favor Diego Pacheco to win. He has a huge size advantage. He is, I think the hotter prospect. But I think this is a very close fight for him. I think it's very tough. And I've seen Pacheco have, kind of close fights before. Even just Steven Nelson I mentioned. I remember he beat him pretty widely, but the first few rounds were a little bit, he cannot afford to start slow in this fight, I think, because Sadjo will come for him and he'll, bring the world of hurt. We've never seen Pacheco really get hurt. I don't know if we've seen Sadjo get hurt, but I do think somebody gets hurt in this fight. I don't know if it, doesn't go the distance or anything, but I think it's going to be a great fight and I'm looking forward to it. Now, moving on from there, co-main event is also a really good fight. Joe Cordina back in. Second fight of lightweight fighting Gabriel Flores Jr., who's guys been there for a minute. And this is essentially a world title eliminator. Winner of this is going to be ranked number 1 by the WBO and thus mandatory challenger to Abdullah Mason. I do think it's a really good fight. I'm definitely leaning in the favor of Joe Cordina. I think Flores is good. I don't think he's as world level. I mean, Cordina's a former world champion. The only thing that's holding back Cordina in this one for me is that, one, it's coming up in weight, but two, does he still have it? That Kakache loss probably took a lot out of him. Like I said, it was his first loss, and, he that was a rough one, getting beaten up like that. So, I don't know, but I am definitely picking Cordina to win this fight just because I do think that he is the better boxer overall. I think he's the better fighter, and I think he should be able to win this fight. So, we'll see what happens on Saturday, but that one will be a lot of fun. You got Sky Nicholson back on this card. She's going to be fighting for the interim WBC title at 122 against Juliana Villa. So I suspect she'll win that. We'll see if she gets another stoppage when she's all of a sudden a big puncher. And then hopefully she fights Elias Scotney next year. Tito Mercado's back. He's fighting Antonio Moran, which is a pretty solid fight there. I'm looking forward to that one. Tito Mercado's a guy who talks a lot of smack, but he's been backing it up. He just hasn't been a lot active this year. Not his fault. Just keeps on having pullouts and injuries and stuff and all that. But yeah, he's back on Saturday. And then you've also got Arturo Cardenas for Cesar Vaca. Vaca just fought Sam Goodman. Arturo Cardenas, he needs to really impress me. I don't know, his last few performances have just not impressed me in the slightest. I thought one, if not both, of his last wins were a little bit, touch and go. I don't know if he really won them. So I need him to have a big performance. And then you got Chev Clark back in an 8-rounder against Anthony Holloway, who I believe is 9-9. So really hoping that Clark can look good there. Hopefully get a stoppage and show that, yeah, I'm not done. I'm still, a good cruiserweight. But definitely a must-win for him. It's actually not the only big boxing fight we have in LA. Badou Jack and Noel Mikaelian are rematching. This fight was ordered by the WBC. A lot of people didn't like the rematch was ordered. I personally don't mind it. The first fight, I thought was pretty solid. I remember on that Canelo fight card in May, this was easily the best fight on the card. And I thought it was 50-50. I had it to draw. Actually, if I were to choose a winner, I probably would have said Mikaelian. I had it to draw, but I was closer to giving Mikaelian the win. So I wasn't mad at Jack getting the win, but this is definitely one I thought could have warranted a rematch if they decided to go that route, and they did. And I think LA is a great location to have it. So I'm expecting another good fight. I'm expecting someone to pick it up and go for it. I do want to favor Badou Jack to win this fight. I do think he's the overall better fighter. It's just a question again of, is he over the hill? He's been fighting for a while, so I don't know. But I'm expecting a good fight. I'm picking Jack to win in the rematch because, again, I feel like he had, that was a really good performance from Mikaelian in May and not a great overall performance from Jack. So I think he has more to improve on here, and we'll just have to see how it goes for him. But it should be a fun fight. Now we also have a UFC card, the final ever UFC on ESPN card at the Apex. This closes out 2025. No more UFC for 6 weeks after this. 13 fights, and honestly, for an Apex card, I think it's pretty solid. Main event, Brandon Royval, Manel Kape. I know that Manel Kape is the favorite for probably a few reasons. Mainly, Brandon Royval is coming off a loss, but I think that's a great loss he came off of against Joshua Van. He barely lost that fight. I'm picking Royval to win this one. I just think he's better than Manel Kape, just straight up. Not that I don't think Manel Kape is good or anything. I just think that Royval is better, and I think that that will show. I could be wrong. I think there's a really close fight. I think the winner of this could really just get injected into the flyweight title conversation. It's a very important fight for the division. I think it's like top five. So, yeah, I'm really excited for it. Um, it's just, flyweight's so interesting now where before I was thinking, oh, well, the winner of this will probably get that title shot. And then Tatsuro Taira had a great win, and Joshua Van beat Pantoja. Now Pantoja's waiting on a title shot. So I think the winner of this is actually more so like third in line for the title now. But still, they need a good win. Co-main event, Giga Chikadze is going to fight Kevin Vallejos. Yeah, this does feel like it's one of those things where a guy who's on his way out is getting sacrificed for his ranking. Chikadze, I believe, is ranked number 12 at 145 pounds. Vallejos outside the rankings. I'm expecting Vallejos to come in, likely finish him. Well, actually, I don't know about that, but I do think Vallejos is the favorite to win this fight. Not that I don't think Giga Chad has a chance, but I'm picking Vallejos. Then you have Cesar Almeida versus Cesare Oleksiejczuk, who's the brother of Michal Oleksiejczuk. That should be a pretty fun fight. I'm curious to see how that one goes. Leaning again to Almeida, but I don't know that Oleksiejczuk. Is this his UFC debut off of the Contender Series? I'm not sure. Then you have Melkizil Acosta versus Morgan Charrier. Kennedy Nzechukwu versus Marcus Buchecha. I really like Kennedy Nzechukwu. Buchecha, I think this is his second UFC fight, and he's a big wrestler, so it's definitely a wrestler versus a striker. King Green is back on this card, fighting Lance Gibson Jr. in his UFC debut. So let's see if King Green still has anything. Amanda Lemos versus Jillian Robertson. I think that's number 5 versus number 10 at strawweight, so that's an important fight. Lemos fighting to hold on to her top position. Neil Magny is fighting Yaroslav Almasov on this card, much, much farther down than I believe it should be. I think this should be on the main card, but whatever. It's a pretty deep Apex card. That one, Neil Magny's the ultimate gatekeeper. Amosov, former Bellator champion, making his UFC debut. You have to think Amosov's going to win this one. With Neil Magny only losing to the top of the top. But if Amosov does win this, that kind of means he's going to be a top welterweight. So let's see how it goes for him. But yeah, I'm excited for that fight. So yeah, it is kind of crazy to think that this is the end of the UFC ESPN era. It's been the past 7 years. And this is the final card, and we won't have one for a while, so hope we all enjoy it. But that's not the only big MMA show. In fact, it may not even be the biggest MMA card of the weekend because PFL has got a banger of a card in Lyon, France, headlined by their new heavyweight championship, the vacant championship. And that'll be fought for between Vadim Nemkov and Renan Ferreira. Obviously, Ferreira is the guy who fought Francis Ngannou. He's a monster. He's an absolute giant. He's just unbelievably big. Vadim Nemkov, former light heavyweight Bellator champion. He's looked pretty solid at heavyweight. I do think Nemkov is the better fighter here, and I think he should be able to just take Ferreira down and show him what's what. But it's certainly a tall task. So we'll see how that one goes. But I'm picking Nemkov to win. It should be a pretty fun fight. Co-main event: Chris Cyborg back against Sarah Collins. Again, this one I don't even think is that competitive. I don't know much at all about Sarah Collins, but Chris Cyborg is one of the GOATs of MMA, so I have no doubt that she should win this fight. The only way she doesn't is if she's past the hill, which she may be, but I think she's not past enough to lose this fight. Patrick Harbiroura is back. He's fighting Kevin Jousset in the featured fight. Harbiroura is a big star for them. Excited to see that. You got Taylor Lapilus versus Liam Gittins opening up the main card, and then you've got the two finals. You have Baris Adiguzel versus Dean Garnett and Connor Hughes versus Alex Chisov. Those should both be good fights. The PFL Europe finals. Boris Atangana is back as well. He's going to be fighting Guilherme Soares. Really excited to see him fight. He's always a ton of fun. And yeah, so good fighters all the way through. I think that PFL genuinely is putting their stuff together, and they're putting on better fights in the new year. I mean, they also just announced, we can talk about it now, Fabian Edwards is going to challenge Castelo Vanstinas for his middleweight championship March 20th in Madrid, Spain. So it's another fight that they've added to their calendar. I love that they finally have just decided, screw it, dude. Let's just do the normal thing. let's just have fights all the way everywhere in the world, headlined by these big title fights. Let's just do the title fights, and it's just finally making like sense. So no updates on the undercard of that yet, but already a good main event, and then I think they're going to come to U.S. twice more between March and April. So yeah, looking forward to the future of PFL. And then the other cards we have this weekend, we do have a BKFC card, the final UK one of the year. It's in Derby. I think it's 12 or 13 fights overall. Main event is Connor Cook, Anthony Holmes for the UK Light Heavyweight Championship. So it should be a fun fight card. Again, I don't really know a whole lot of the guys on this one. It's a smaller card. It's a UK fight night, but it should be definitely quite fun to watch because the BKFC is never really disappointing. And then you've also got the IBF Bantamweight Championship in Mexico. The vacant titles on the line between Jose Salas Reyes and Lendiel Ingzeke. I don't think I've ever seen either of these guys fight. I probably have seen Salas fight on a card at some point. I've definitely not seen Ingzeke fight. So I'm going to pick Salas to win this one. I think he's a pretty decent favorite. So we'll see. Who knows? But he's also this is in his home territory. So yeah, I do think that Salas wins this fight. And the winner of this is going to become champion in a very, very good division. That is 118 pounds. Lots of big fights for them. This is the belt that was formerly held by one Juto Nakatani. So they're going to join Takuma Inoue, Seiya Tsutsumi, or is it Nonito Donaire right now champion? I don't even know who's currently WBA champion considered. And then Christian Medina is the other champion in the division. So good fighters at 118 and plenty more that are not champions. We did have some cards already this week. We'll talk about the one that happened yesterday. Everyone's talking about Kubrat Pulev got knocked out by Murat Gassiev. I've only seen the main and co-main event. I saw Bakodur Usmanov outpoint Maxi Hughes. I know that one was a little bit controversial. It was a very close fight. I did have Usmanov winning, only by, like a round or two. But I do think that he deserved to get the nod. Hughes had a really good start, and then from that point on, most of the rounds were Usmanov's, except for one or two here and there from Maxi Hughes. But overall, I think he was doing the better work. But it was a good fight, so he's now going to become very highly ranked with the WBA, that title held by Tank Davis. I doubt he gets a shot at Tank Davis. I bet Tank Davis probably vacates soon. But, it's a good fight there. And then main event, Kubrat Pulev Murat Gassiev. Leading up until the knockout, I thought it was quite competitive. I actually thought Pulev was ahead. Gassiev was having some moments here and there, but the consistency was with Pulev. He had the activity. He was just constantly jabbing and stuff, and wouldn't really let off Gassiev. So I had him winning on my card, like 3 rounds to 2, 4 rounds to 1, and then Gassiev just lands a fantastic left hook and a combination, and it just completely turns out Pulev. You have to remember, Pulev is 44 years old. So I'm really hoping he retires after that. That was a rough, at that age, getting knocked out. So, Murat Gassiev is now the WBA regular heavyweight champion. Not sure if anything will come of it. I'm guessing that he's going to do how Pulev got the belt, how he got the belt. And that is, by only fighting these past the prime guys. I don't think he's going to go and fight Moses Atalma or anything, even though I'd be fine with that. I think he's going to go and fight someone else who's way past it, and we're just going to get a fight like that. But, I thought it was a good performance. There was also the Eye of the Tiger card on Thursday night. Alexandre Gomat lost for the first time against Ramadan Hisseni. Very good fight, very competitive fight. Hisseni did win it on all 3 cards by 96-93. I had a 95-94 in his favor, so I had a little bit closer. And I was honestly kind of surprised. I do think Hisseni won the fight, definitely. But I was a little bit surprised that Gomont didn't get any shot on the scorecards. I was fully expecting, the judges to come out and give the fight to Gomont, even though I don't think he deserved it. It was like, we are in Canada. This is his hometown, advantage. And that didn't happen. So I like that they didn't do that. But I also felt like, dang, he's not going to get any recognition. But it is what it is. Good performance from Hisseni, being the underdog and coming in and getting that dub. Co-main event, Imam Katayev came back off his very BS loss to David Morrell. He did not lose that fight, but on the scorecards and with the judges, he did somehow. But anyways, he came back against Adam Deans. He stopped him in a matter of 3 rounds with a body shot, just turned him off. Look, Imam Katayev, I hope that they either can get him another big fight because he had a great performance against David Morrell, and he will get another big opportunity. He'll probably be fighting for a world title one day. As for who I think he could fight, look, if they can't get anyone to fight Alba Ramirez, you've got a great in-house fight there, light heavyweight, with 2 top 10 guys in the division. you could do that. I mean, I think Eye of the Tiger has so many fights, so many fighters that they could match up right now and put on like big fights. I mean, you talk about Mbili versus Iglesias. Dude, that is incredible. That's a top 5 super middleweight fight. You talk about Butler versus Bazinian, which they've tried. They've tried. It just won't happen for whatever reason. And then you even talk about guys like Arthur Biarsanov, who are there, and they're just kind of waiting for a thing. And I know they have other 140 pounders they can throw them in with. I'm forgetting one of those guys, but I was thinking about it the other day. They got another really good super lightweight coming up. I know there's John Arobio. I don't think you throw him in there with him. You don't want to set him off, but they've got lots of good fights that they can make. And lots of opportunities to do it. So I'm excited to see what they do. You also had good decision wins for Avery Martin Duval and Vanessa Lepage-Joanese, who was coming off her loss to Clarissa Shields. Neither of them lost a round in their fights. What the distance was a little bit, all right, well, are we going to stop them? No stoppage, but complete blowouts on the card, and Joanese did have 2 knockdowns on the way. Okay, going on from that, let's talk about some news that we've had in the world of combat sports, starting with everyone's favorite Canelo Alvarez. So Eddie Reynoso confirmed he's going to be skipping Cinco de Mayo this next year, which we're not surprised about. We knew he was likely not going to fight in May. We were actually told he was going to fight before then, but then he got injured. He had to go through a surgery, so we were told he wouldn't be fighting until probably summer, if not second half of the year. And apparently he's going to be skipping that date entirely, and then they're targeting a Crawford rematch in September. I understand why Canelo wants to. Made a shit ton of money, and it was a close fight on the cards at least. No doubt that Crawford won, but Canelo definitely won a handful of rounds, and he feels like he can do better. He feels like he wants to put on another big show. I'm not surprised at all that he wants the rematch. I just don't really have a lot of interest in it. I don't know how much interest Crawford has, so I would be fine if we just left it as is and moved on from there. But realistically, there's a good chance it'll happen, and we just got to be prepared for that and have another huge show on Netflix. So we'll see what they end up doing with it. But my personal opinion, I don't really want the fight, but I'm expecting to have it. Queensberry announced that Nick Ball will be fighting Brandon Figueroa February 7th in Liverpool for the WBA Featherweight Championship. This was obviously ordered by the WBA, even though they have Mirko Cuello, who's been interim champion, and he's right there waiting on a fight, and he would give Nick Ball a much better fight. It's whatever. We're getting Figueroa instead, which I do still think will be a good fight. I mean, Figueroa is way taller than him. He's one of the tallest featherweights. So it'll be an interesting size disparity. I definitely do think that Nick Ball wins this fight, at least right now I do. I think Figueroa is just not as good as Nick Ball, at least not now. I think his last few performances have showed, he's not that great anymore. So you throw him in there with Nick Ball, who's a guy who's just all action and is crazy. I think he'll be competitive. I do think Nick Ball will win the fight. With some other rumored Queensberry events, apparently on St. Patrick's weekend, they're planning to go back to Ireland, and Anthony Cacace will be fighting Feargal McCrory. I get it's an all-Irish fight at 130, but dude, I really have no interest in Cacace fighting someone like McCrory. Cacace is a top 5, maybe even top 3 super featherweight. Why would he be fighting a guy like Feargal McCrory? It's just so frustrating. There's no point in that. He hasn't fought in almost a year, and that, or he won't have fought in almost a year, and that's who you're going to throw him in with. Come on. But also rumors that Pierce O'Leary, Mark Chamberlain will be co-main on that card. Now that is a fantastic 140-pound fight. I love that one. Would like to see the rematch with Rafferty for Chamberlain, but I'll take this too. There's also a rumor that February 28th, Konstantin Ursu will fight Owen Cooper for the vacant British welterweight championship that was just vacated by Conor Walker. So I thought that Ursu should get a shot at that, and it looks like he probably will pretty soon against Owen Cooper. That's a good fight. Derek Chisora and Deontay Wilder had a face-off at this IBA event over the weekend. Chisora says, fight 50. I think that, honestly, I would love to see it. Both these guys need a retirement fight against a big name. They can both bring that for each other. I have no issues with them doing it next. I don't think it'll happen, but I would love it to happen next. I think Chisora should not be fighting one of the top guys. I think he should be fighting someone like Dillian White or Deontay Wilder, someone like that who's also passed and also needs a retirement fight. So yeah, and they've never fought each other before. So yeah, no problem with Chisora Wilder happening. Hopefully it does happen. So we obviously had Oshaki Foster and Stephen Fulton last weekend. We're curious about what's going to happen with all their belts. We have the answers for both. So Foster has already vacated the interim 135-pound championship, and he will stay as the super featherweight championship. I think that's the right call. I would have loved to see him fight Shakur, but he's realizing Shakur's going up in weight right now. I'm not going to get that fight against him. I'd rather fight at 130 where I'm more comfortable there, and I can be the top dog. 135 is a much tougher division. Foster is the best super featherweight right now. So he can go to 130. He can fight. Apparently he wants the winner of Emmanuel Navarrete, Sugar Nunes, which I think is great that he wants that. That'd be a 3-belt unification, and it'd be a good style matchup for him. So I like that fight, and I like him going down to 130. Also, the interim 135 was already ordered for 2 other guys. Herrera and Nunes, so this just makes sense that they would, get that opportunity still. And then Stephen Fulton has vacated the featherweight championship with the WBC, and now Shushu Carrington, Carlos Castro will be for the full title on January 31st on the Shakur Tiafimo undercard. That fight was obviously rumored for January 31st. We didn't know where. We now know it's going to be in New York, which makes sense. Shushu's from New York. He should be on that card, and that will be for the full title. So definitely had some stakes. So I think we're now going to have, from the sounds of it, 4 world title fights on that card, which is spectacular. And yeah, interesting that Fulton vacated. There's a report that came out that he stripped it, and then he was stripped, and then he said, no, I vacated. So I do find that interesting. I think it's mainly because, look, Fulton was moving up to 130 probably because he didn't want to make 126 anymore, and then we showed he couldn't even make 130. So he needs to think about if he still wants to fight. But he definitely was not going to come back down to featherweight. And so you know what? I appreciate that because as much as I love Crawford, when he moves up in weight, he doesn't vacate his titles. He just leaves them, until he gets stripped of them. And then, they're just sitting there and collecting dust when somebody else could be fighting for it. So I do appreciate Fulton just being recognizing quickly, I'm not going to come back down. I'm leaving this title. What else? Okay. Kevin Holland versus Jeff Neal has been added to UFC Houston. Good fight there. There's also a report that what's it called? Mario Batista. Sorry, I don't know what I was saying like that. Mario Batista is going to be fighting Vinicius Oliveira as the main event of the next Apex card on February 7th. That's not been announced yet, but it's the word on the street. It was also announced that Brandon Moreno is going to be fighting Asu Almabayev in the main event of UFC Mexico. So very quick turnaround for Moreno, just 2 months after getting stopped. But Asu Almabayev, I think it's a winnable fight for Moreno. I would favor him, but definitely still a good fight. A top 10 at flyweight, so I like it. What else? Zerto may not fight January 16th. If he does have a tune-up, it wouldn't be Safar as previously planned. It's from Dan Rafael. I don't know why the plans have changed. I'm not surprised if he not fight January 16th. That date's coming up. We haven't had an announcement or anything. I'm curious why they've shifted from Safar, as it seems like we were pretty, all ahead, him being the next opponent, but it is what it is, man. I think a tune-up would serve him well, but we'll see if he actually chooses to have one before the May 2nd date with Benavidez. Vidal Riley Alloys Jr. purse bids have been delayed to January 14th, so quite a big purse bid. But it does seem like this is the fight that we're going to get. I would assume MF Pro is going to do everything they can to try and get this fight locked down so they can have it headline their first event. But yeah, that's a big fight. I love that fight. 2 of the top British cruiserweights, on the come up. And I really do hope that they can get a deal sorted because I just think it's a great fight. Suleiman Sissoko is protesting the WBC for getting surpassed by Conor Benn as mandatory for Barrios at 147, as he should. I mean, to be honest, I know Sissoko is mandatory. He's number 1. He won a final eliminator in May. I don't really have a lot of interest in seeing him fight the top dogs just because I haven't really seen much from him. How good is he? He's one of these guys who just kind of uses the sanctioning bodies to get to the top without ever actually beating, a lot of people. So here he is at the top now, and he wants a shot at Barrios, which I get. So I don't blame him at all for, trying to get the protest in the WBC's decision. But nobody wants to see Barrios Sissoko over Barrios versus Ben, or Barrios versus Garcia. So yeah. Subriel Matias Dalton Smith is going to have a $54.99 pay-per-view. $55 for that, which is absurd. This fight should not even be a pay-per-view. I will say it's a pretty decent card, but it's definitely not a pay-per-view card. It's a good fight, but I don't know why it's so expensive. Usually, I was expecting like $40, and even then, that's a lot. It should be, if it's going to be a pay-per-view, don't make it over 20. That's what it should be. But 55 is absurd. Definitely not worth that amount, and we'll see how many buys they actually get. The next Nigeria fight card, the Chaos in the Ring 2, I guess you could say, has now been shifted from Friday, December 19th to Sunday, December 21st, which I have no issue with. But it's going to have a new venue now, and tickets are just now soon to go on sale. They haven't got on sale yet. And there's also still no opponents for Lawrence Coley or Tony Yoka. I don't know what the hell is happening with this event that we're so close to it. No opponent for the main event, and you're now just going to go on tickets and you're shifting the date? You're just now selling tickets? I don't know, man. I mean, the last one, the arena was very, very empty, and I'm expecting the same thing now. So, yeah, they got to clear this whole situation up, and I don't know. I mean, the production was decent last time, and they've got good fighters on this card, but they just need to get deals sorted. I mean, come on. There's a rumor that Akoli's going to fight Ebenezer Tete, which would not surprise me. I have no interest in that fight because I think Akoli's #1 with the WBC. Why would he fight someone like Tete? But at this point, I'll take anyone, and it would not surprise me in the slightest if that's who they end up having him fight. So it looks like MVP is really, really loading this January 3rd Puerto Rico card. They announced Ebony Bridges will be back. She'll be fighting Alexis Areza. You got Crystal Rosado back. You got Alexis Chaparro on the card. Yandia Lozano, and then some other prospects like Raquel Miller, Abner Figueroa, Caleb Tirado versus Justin Hill. Both those guys making their pro debuts. But these are just the prelims, I'm assuming. So you got Ebony Bridges fighting on the prelims, and then you've got like 7 other fights they've already announced. I think they have like 13 or 14 fights currently booked for the card. So it's going to be a very, very busy and loaded event on January 3rd, but they're getting together a really big stable, and they don't have a lot of events right now to satisfy that stable. So I'm hoping in 2026 they start to put on more shows, and we can see a lot of these guys on the roster get more properly treated. But yeah, good fighters added to that one. Lozano, obviously a Queensberry fighter, but he's from Puerto Rico, and I don't know when they can ever put on an event in Puerto Rico, so glad that he's getting to stay active and going on to fight there. And then we also, last thing we'll talk about, ProBox TV announced they will be having a card on January 30th in Maryland, and they're going to have a lot of guys on. They got Trevon Marshall, Jordan Roach, David Whitmire, Francois Scarborough Jr., Jordan White, Suleiman Sagawa, Ben Johnson. So some prospects and some contenders like Sagawa and Jordan White. Jordan White obviously coming off his loss to Rene Tejas Hiron, which was a really good fight, but one that he lost, of course. And you've also got Suleiman Sagawa, who's been going on some great wins recently. So yeah, I'm excited for that card. No opponents announced yet, but they just announced that they will be back January 30th with that lineup. And the tickets are already on sale. So looking forward to it. That's all I've got for today's episode. Crazy that Fury Joshua is actually going to happen. At least that's what we're being told right now. I'm sure we'll all get more excited for it when it actually gets announced. But yeah, good fights to look out for this weekend. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Thank you so much for listening, and peace out.